Good morning. It's actually 6 in the evening. Yeah, I just took a 3-hour nap. That wasn't even great, but it was one of those I couldn't get myself out of bed. John's at the gym currently, and I am making a coffee. I realized I had never done really a coffee making commentary, so here we are. Almost every time I have a later in the day coffee, anytime I make one myself, is usually French pressed, and I don't know why. So yeah, what are we doing? Augustus's Organic Breakfast. I got this from the Crema subscription. I get a new bag every month. What are you? Who are you? It's from Brazil. I don't think it's a Brazilian bean though. I want to say it's like Colombian or something. You'd think they'd make the info more accessible. At first I was not a fan. When I first smelled it, it smelled and looked a lot darker than what I prefer. It does say that it's a medium roast, but on the darker end. And that's usually not my preference, but it performs super well in French press, and surprisingly, under the right parameters, it performs super well with pour over. So I have been enjoying it. We're gonna make a quick French press with it today using the Timex. I haven't used this in a while. I picked this up in France last December when John and I got engaged. Had a really hard time dialing in the grind settings on it. I was wanting to use it strictly for espresso. That did not work out well. It does not grind fine enough consistently to get a good pressure with any portafilter I've tried. So just recently started using it for pour overs in French presses, and it performs substantially better. Probably the best grinder I've ever used. So yeah, currently it's dialed in for my pour overs at a medium coarse-ish grind size, more on the medium side. But we're going to take it 2 clicks up to coarse, give us an almost sea salt-like size, and that's where French press really performs its best. We'll do 1 tick up. Yeah, we'll try 1 tick up. That's good. Water's brewing. Another change as far as French press. I almost always brew my water at 205 degrees or pour over. Just recently getting into the much lighter roast where I'm at about 195 for this particular brew, which is what I also do for this variety when I am doing pour over. We're taking the water to boiling 212 degrees. We're making up for the more coarse grind size. And we really need to take advantage of the super bright flavors that are in it. For some reason, I was super surprised when I gave it a try. Yeah, there's that. No, yeah. I also didn't take my meds today, if you can't tell. So, but I'm feeling good. We need a spoon. There you are. All right, we'll weigh up our beans. These are the same exact measurements with water and beans for a single serve. My own recipe, essentially a 1:16 ratio. I'm doing 16 grams of beans And we go to 256 grams of water. I always actually input, there we go, perfect. Either 16.1 or 16.2 grams of beans to make up for what's lost in the burrs after grinding. So we have a perfect 16 grams upon brewing. Perfect. And the test. Perfect. Alright, I always clean that out. That's what I was talking about. You lose a lot of coffee in burrs, whether it's a manual grinder or an electric grinder. This one's super easy to clean out. Because the burrs are so accessible, I just give them a brush at the end on the grind side and get all that out of there. Like all of my brewers, whether it's V60, Kalita Wave, whatever, always preheat at the temperature that you're going to be brewing the coffee at, so you don't have any shock to the beans with a lower temperature or even a higher temperature during the bloom. So always preheat. I just preheat for a few minutes, especially with French press where you're going to lose a lot of the water's heat because it's sitting for 8 to 10 minutes versus a pour over where you're pouring consistently for a few minutes and then you can immediately drink it. So as far as the brewing itself, I use a hybrid James Hoffman method for the most part. He's actually not a fan of preheating or tempering brewers. I don't know if that's specifically French presses or what. I read it in his latest book. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not a fan of not preheating. So that's really the only difference in what I do versus his recipe. So essentially, after preheating's done, the beans immediately in with the water at boiling temperature, 256 grams of water. We'll let that steep without disturbance for 4 minutes. At 4 minutes, I'll pause the timer, give a gentle stir to the beans. The majority of them will sink at that point. Whatever is left, I skim off the top, and then it'll steep another 4 minutes, at which point it's time to drink this. And the whole point of all that, based on Hoffman's findings, is that it creates a much smoother cup. If you're familiar with French press or have done it before, because there's no fine paper filter to filter out those solids and those fines at the end, you get a lot of what's called coffee dust, a lot of the settlement from the grinds at the bottom of the cup. Some people enjoy that. It can provide some texture if that's what you want in your coffee, but it's also very bitter and kind of gross depending on it. So this method has gotten rid of most of those issues that you'll find in a single stage French press filtration system. Okay, water is back to temperature. Brewer's preheated. I got a question about this French press in the last video. This is it is glass. It is glass. and I got it from Target like 2 or 3 years ago. It's pretty much the only French press that I use. I have this beautiful ceramic one that John got me for, I want to say, my birthday 2 years ago. It was for some occasion that he got it for me. Completely ceramic, absolutely beautiful. I don't use it for brewing anymore. I used to, but we made the mistake of putting it in the dishwasher a few too many times, so there are hairline cracks throughout the ceramic where it could be used for sure, but I'd like to preserve it as long as I can. So now it's more of a decorative piece. I also got a special edition Dolce & Gabbana French press for wedding gift by my work colleague who was a former dispatcher, now or was my evidence technician when I worked at the agency. That's also beautiful French press. A very expensive one, which I will never use, but it's a very nice decorative piece. I'll show it to you guys here in a second. But before we lose temp, you're zeroed out, in with the grinds. Perfect 16 grams. Flatten that out. Alright, as soon as the first drop of water touches the beans, I start my timer. Going to 256, and the timer is running. Perfect. Alright. So the goal was 256. We're at 257.5. Margin of error for these about 3 grams. Don't want to go any more, any less than about 3 grams. You won't really taste any difference. Alright, we'll put the top on. Do not depress the plunger. That won't be done until the very end. And we let the timer go for another 3 minutes. We're at 50 seconds. We are approaching that time, and all right, timer is paused at exactly 4 minutes. Take the lid off. We're gonna go in with our stir. Very gentle stir. We got all those grinds flowing to the bottom. Perfect. This is a very important step because there is no stir done after the final steeping, so we need to get all of those grinds as submerged as possible so we get a good extraction. And there's no stir at the end because the entire point of this brewing method, the James Hoffman method, again, is for that clarity. So if we disturb that sediment at the bottom, we're gonna have grinds floating everywhere. When it's time to pour, we're gonna have the fines floating everywhere, and then we get that super gritty, really just crazy cup at the end. All right, we got all the floaters, and it's not a lot. We got, like, if you can see that, there's like 5 whole beans or grounds that were left floating. All right, lid back on. Retain as much heat as possible. Restart the timer, another 4 minutes, then it will be time to drink. In the meantime, just like the brewers, I always preheat my cups. Super important, specifically with the French press, because you lose so much of that thermal temperature while it's brewing for 8 minutes. So I preheat it at the same temperature that I brewed it at. So I preheat it at 212. Just gives me a little bit more heat throughout my enjoyment of the cup. while we are waiting on that, and it's coming down outside. Good Lord. While we're waiting on that, just a little update. The website is essentially completely done. I appreciate you guys that have joined the mailing list. That was linked in my last video. In the next day or so, I'll be conducting the soft launch. I probably will not announce it. I'll be running a couple of ads as testers, and we'll go from there. I'll definitely keep you guys in the loop for that. Hopefully it is successful enough to give me a little bit of something to do while I'm waiting for some things to transpire with school and my new job. So, yeah. All right, we're approaching that time. Pour out that rinse water. 8 minutes. Right now it is finally time. We're going to depress the plunger. We are just barely going to touch. Sorry for this terrible sound. We're just barely going to touch the very top of the liquid. A lot of former methods or people that just didn't know what they were doing will push the plunger all the way down to the sediment, to the grinds, and just absolutely ruins the cup. So just at the very top of that liquid, and we're going to pour as gently as possible. Again, the whole goal is to not disrupt the sediment. Right, and we're going to leave just about a 1/4 inch of that liquid at the bottom to ensure that we're not getting any of that coffee dust that's settled there. And that is that. Before I do forget, I need to adjust that coffee grinder again so it's not screwed up for my pour over tomorrow, because there are no really indicators of where your grind size is on these things. You kind of just have to find a good setting and remember what adjustments you make after the baseline. So that can be kind of annoying, but all right. Now I'm going to enjoy this and probably watch The Diplomat or something, because season 3 just came out and it's fantastic.